again, Lucy, and this is your Thursday morning of maths on the 28th. So again, listen to me in your guided practice and you'll complete your independent practice when the video says so. So remember to pause and press play where you need to. So we're going to count in our 9s times table, so let's count together. Please make sure you're counting along with me, I don't want to do it alone. 0 times 9 is 0, 1 times 9 is 9, 2 times 9 is 18, 3 times 9 is 27, 4 times 9 is 36, 5 times 9 is 45, 6 times 9 is 54, 7 times 9 is 63, 8 times 9 is 72, 9 times 9 is 81, 10 times 9 is 90, 11 times 9 is 99, 12 times 9 is 108. And then we'll clap through the multiples of 9 now. 0, 9, 18, 27, 36, 45, 54, 63, 72, 81, 90, 99, 108. I hope you sang along with me then, Lucy. Okay, and our warm-up or mental starter. I would like you, again, please to practice your column addition. So, you have 438 plus 27, 987 plus 105, and 263 add 398. So again here, just as an example, you have your 10s and your 1s column. You know that 8 plus 3 is 11. And just thinking about why I always start in my 1s column, because 1s here is my smallest value. Okay, I always start on my smallest value. Then I have my 10s, I add 3 and I add 9, which is 12, and I'm not forgetting this extra one that I've carried here, which gives me 13. So I write my 3 in my 10s column, my 1 in my 100s. So therefore my answer to 38 plus 93 is 131. You should pause the video now, have a go at these questions, and then move on to your task for today. So our learning objective today, Lucy, is to compare decimals. And I'm sure that you'll be really good at this now because you're really starting to understand the difference between the 1s column, the 10s column, and the 100s column. So I'm going to show you in guided practice today how to compare using the more than, less than, to compare the decimals. You may also find that they might be equal to, which means the same. Now, here on A, I don't have any 1s, so big cross there. I have 2/10 there, 1, 2, and I have 4 hundredths, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so my decimal here is 0.24. And I'm going to compare it to this side here. Again, I don't have any 1s, but what I do have are 3/10. So I'm going to write that there. Can you see what's different about these two decimals already? Yes, I already have an extra 10th in this number here. Then I go to my 100ths column and I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 hundredths. So I can see that I also have an extra 100th in comparison to this number here. So I have 0.24 compared with 0.35. Now I know that they both have 0 in the 1s column, but in the 10ths column here I've got 3. In the 10ths column here I have 2. Now I know that 3 is bigger than 2. I would always opt for 3 chocolate bars instead of 2 chocolate bars. And remembering that the more than sign will go like that. So the crocodile, if you like to think of it that way, the crocodile will open its mouth towards the largest amount of food, thinking of our counters here as food. So we know that 0.24 is actually less than 0.35. Now looking at question B, you can see that in the 1s column here, I have 1, 2, 3 counters. Then I have my decimal point. And in the tens column, I have just one counter. Then I go across to my hundredths counters and I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I have the full decimal 3.15. Now in order to compare it, I need to work out what the number is on the opposite side. In the ones column, I have 3 counters. Oh, it's just like the other one on the opposite side here. Then I have my decimal point. And in my tens column, I don't have 1, but I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 counters. So I'm immediately thinking, well, I know that 6 is bigger than 1. I would prefer 6 pieces of chocolate in comparison to 1 piece of chocolate. So I'm thinking, I already know which way my symbol is going to be facing. And then, just to double check, I'm going to go to my hundredths column. And I have 3 hundredths. Now, you might be thinking at this moment in time, well, in the hundredths column, in this number, there are 5. But in the hundredths column here, there's 3. So surely, because 5 is bigger than 3, this number is bigger. Well, we always go off the tens column as well as the hundredths column. And as we're looking at the tens column, there are actually more counters because tenths is a larger value than the hundredths. So I've got to always consider how many counters are in my tenths before moving to my smallest value, which is the hundredths in this case. So now I'm looking at my numbers. I've got 3.15 and 3.63. And even if I were to think about it like money, we have, if I had £3.15 and £3.63, I know if my mum just give me those 2 options, I'd be saying, well, mummy, I prefer to have the £3.63 because I know I'd get more sweeties with that one. I'd definitely get more chocolate. So again, my symbol is going to be facing this way. So 3.63 is more than 3.15. If I was reading it in the way that it's presented to me, from this direction across this side, be 3.15 is less than 3.63. Now, I would like you to have a go at your independent practice on your sheet. You pause it now before I go on to the next question. Now, on this question, you are going to draw counters to make the statements correct. Now, it's having a really good understanding of what these symbols mean. Now, I know if I'm going to read this, which I always should do, from the way it's presented to me, from this side right across to this side here. It is saying to me that 3.14 is actually less than something that can be drawn in this box here, in these place value columns. So I've got to make this statement correct. So if the crocodile wants to eat the largest amount, I'm going to have to make sure that I put more counters in this columns. So in my ones column, I have 3. I could still have 3 counters in my ones column. But what now I could think about is adding more counters to my tenths. So I could add 2 tenths, and immediately 3.2 is larger than 3.14 because I have more tenths. I have more of the larger value in my place value column. Doesn't matter that 3.14 has more digits, it matters about the value in the place value column. So I actually don't need to add anything into my hundredths, but I will do, just because I want to draw them. And I could even still add I could still add 3 hundredths in there. But because I've got 1 more tenth, this number is bigger. Now, with B, you're going to complete that one independently. Now think about what the sign is saying. What is it telling you? Pause the video now before we move on. Right, lovely. We are now going to be using more than or less than to compare the decimals. And this time they are not in counters, we're using the abstract form, so we're using the numbers. Here in A, we've got 7.68. And on this side, we've got 7.02. Now, I'm going to start with my highest value in the ones column. They're both the same. We both have 7. Then I'm going to my next biggest value, which is in the tenths column. In the tenths column on this number, there are 6 tenths. But in the tenths in this number, there are 0 tenths. So immediately, I will know that 7.68 is more than 7.02. That more than sign is facing the largest amount. So that crocodile wants to eat the largest. Now, let's have a look at B before you have a go at your independent practice. Again, I'm going to start with my highest value on my place value column, which is my ones column. I have 3 in my ones column there, and I also have 3 in my ones column there. Now, let's go to the second highest value in this number, which is the tenths, because I know that 100 is the smallest value in these numbers. Here, I have 2 tenths. On this number, I have 9 tenths. So yes, you're probably thinking that 3.25 is actually less than 3.96. So 3.96 is more than 3.25. Remembering that method that I have just used, checking each value of the column, can you now complete your independent practice? You should pause it now so that you can complete that way. Now, again here, we are having more fluency and more practice through variation. We're going to complete the place value charts to make the statements correct. Now, watch me in my guided practice first. So, here I have 6 ones, I have 2 tenths, and I have 8 hundredths. But my symbol is not facing towards the wide part of the symbol is not facing towards 6.28. So it means that this number that I write in here, in this place value chart, must be larger. Remembering our crocodile loves to eat the largest amount with its jagged teeth. Okay, so in my ones column, I still could have 6. Remember we did something very similar like this just before when we used the counters. So now we've just moved to the abstract form, which are the numbers. So again, back to this. In my ones, I could still have 6. But now I'm going to my tenths. I could be thinking, right, there are 2 tenths here, but I know this number here needs to be bigger. So what's bigger than 2? Yeah, I could put 4 tenths. And immediately, 6.4 is larger than 6.28. But I could even continue making it even larger by adding 9 hundredths. Now, let's look at B. I'm looking at my symbol first of all, and it's telling me that 3.26 is going to be the larger number. So I can make this statement correct. I now have to put so many tenths in and so many hundredths in to make 3.26 the largest amount. Remember, the crocodile always wants to eat the largest amount. So I'm not going to fool him by placing the largest amount over in here in this place value chart. So 3.26 is larger than 3 point something something. What numbers could I place in this tenths column? Now I need something that is smaller than 2. Remember, because 3.26 is larger than the number that I'm going to place in this place value chart here. A number smaller than 2 is 1. Good girl. And a number smaller than 6, well, do I have to change the number 6? I'm hoping that you're thinking, no, you don't have to, Miss Clarkson, because we've already looked at the second highest value in the column, the tenths, and I've already reduced that by 1/10, so I could keep my hundredths exactly the same. So, can you now have a go at your independent practice? Should pause the video before we move on to the next question. Now, this is just going to be some discussion for the pair of us to have. So, Ron and Mia have each made a number using counters on a place value chart. Ron's looks like this. So, Ron has 0 ones, 0, he has 4 tenths, and he has 2 hundredths. And Mia's looks like this one here. He's got 3 ones and 0 tenths and 0 hundredths. So he's actually got the number 3. Now I don't need to put in placeholders here. I could do if I wanted to, but I don't need to because there is no other value in any of the smaller place value columns. Now, Ron is saying my number is greater than Amia's because I have used twice as many counters. Do you agree with Ron? So you should pause this video now. So I'll have a little think. Do you think that Ron is correct? And hopefully, Lucy, you have decided that Ron is incorrect because we always go from our highest value column, and Ron has, Amir has 3 counters in his ones column, but Ron doesn't have any ones counters. So we do not agree with Ron because he is wrong. Do you get that? So he is wrong because there is 3 counters in our highest value place value column, and I know that I prefer £3 over 42 pence, wouldn't you? And now our last question, I'm going to show you some guided practice and then you are going to complete some independent practice. Here we have got some now more fluency, but it looks different because we're not working on place value charts anymore. But I'm hoping that you can see and have remembered what the value of each of these numbers are. So in my 3 here is in the ones column. And we know that after the ones column, past that threshold of the decimal point, it is the tenths. So I'm comparing now, using those same symbols, more than and less than. 3.2 is something, is it smaller or is it larger than 3.8? Now, they both have 3 in the ones column. So I must then look at my tenths column, my second largest place value. I have 2 counters here, but a whopping 8 counters there. And I know that the crocodile loves to eat more because he's a greedy bottom. So 3.2 is actually less than 3.8. So the wide part of my symbol will be facing the 3.8. Now I'm going to look at C. Now remembering on the place value grid, if I didn't have any numbers past my decimal point, I could just put placeholders. So I have the number 1 and it would have placeholders after it, after the decimal point, but I don't need to show those when I'm writing it. So I have the number 1 and then I have the number 0.99. Now, I don't have any ones in that place value column, but I do have 1 there. And even if I were to think about it like money, I would rather have £1 over 99p. Because going to that pound store, I need that extra penny. So, £1 is more than 99p. But in this scenario here, we have 1 is more than 0.99. Can you have a go now using the methods that I've taught you to complete B and D independently on your worksheet? Well done for completing today's task, Lucy.